Okay. Okay.
Okay, so the Facebook Live is rolling. And so then, John, we could set it off now, if that is agreeable.
Yes.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's event. And my name is Josiah Adiamadema. Josiah Adiamadema is going to be the moderator for today. And I welcome all the panelists, Ravi, Terian, Honorable Sozi, and Jean. Kindly feel welcome. I'm just going to run through a few things that we need to look at or expect, that as this conversation is going on, then we need to look at. So first and foremost, this is going to be online for the next few minutes and few hours. So the first one thing that you need to realize is that at any particular moment when you want to speak or you need to say something very critically, please just kindly raise your hand on the screen like this so that then we can be able to see. Besides me, I have my fellow moderator, who is Christophe. So then we'll be able to note when somebody has raised their hand. Christophe, just wave to the team. And then one other thing that you need to do is that we have participants who are all over, and some of them are not going to come to the live scene. So then what is going to happen with them is that if they have questions that they need to find out, all the participants are within and on board. If you have a question that you need to ask, there's a chat segment. So either me or Christophe would be able to pick up your question and we'd be able to relay them to the panelist when it begins. And then we also need to realize that this is live. And as we started off, this is rolling out live on Facebook, and it's also there's going to be a live recording of the same on YouTube. Then we have the social medias that we're going to be working with. We are going to be working on Twitter. We're going to be on Facebook as well. So also you can find that conversation there. Follow the conversation on the hashtag Social Market Economy KE. That is Social Market Economy KE, hashtag Social Market Economy. And then you can follow CAS on the Twitter handle at CAS_Kenya. So then without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to this session. And the run through of how this will be segmented. One, we will have the introductories. And then after the introductories, we're going to have a panelist discussion. After the panelist discussion, we're going to have a panel response. So we're going to have a Q&A. All the questions that we'll have either from the panelists themselves or from the participants who are attending only as attendees. We'll collect all the questions and then ask the panelists, and then they will be able to respond to them. Otherwise, being no much further ado, I'd ask Dr. Yan, please kindly open for us the event.
Yes, thank you, Josiah, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I'm very glad that I can welcome you all to the launch of our new short film. Actually, Josiah forgot to tell the most important thing, that before the discussion we will show this film. And it will be on Kenyan business heroes, a feature on the struggles of Dr. Maxwell Okoth, who is also here with us today. I'm Dr. Jan Czarnicki, and I'm the country director of Konrad Adenauer Stiftung in Kenya. And before we start, I would ask you to quickly follow a short background on our foundation and the topic of today. Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, or short KAS, is a German political foundation working on democracy and good governance all over the world. And especially here in Kenya, we try to connect stakeholders in these aspects between Germany and Kenya. We believe that democracy needs a fair and inclusive economical system. And one of these systems that can deliver this would be social market economy. And we as KAS want to make this concept better known in Kenya, and we hope that it could be used for political debates about economic reforms. And that is why we started a series of short films highlighting basic aspects of social market economy. Today's film is the first one, and it will mainly show which obstacles an entrepreneur has to overcome when he wants to start, or also she wants to start and maintain and grow a business. The main idea at the beginning was that we would show this short film in a cinema, sit together there and discuss on a real podium with real people, have some popcorn, maybe even a beer, and enjoy cinema feeling. Now the coronavirus came in between this and we cannot do this. So we tried to do the same thing virtually. Of course, it's not the same, it's difficult and it's different, but we can still do the same approach. So we have my opening remarks now. Afterwards, we show the film, hopefully in the best possible quality. Then we have a debate, like a panel discussion with experts and policymakers. We have Honorable Geoffrey Otsotsi with us, Member of Parliament, and we have Terry Enschebet, media expert, and also Ravi Kamalka, our director, who was shooting the film, is with us. And you'll also have me on the podium. And of course, you'll have Dr. Maxwell Okoth, who was the hero of this film, who was our first business hero. I have to admit that doing this on the internet was more complicated and more time-consuming than I expected in the beginning. That's why I especially want to thank the CAST team and for all the work they invested in this, and also the social media team and our partners for making this possible. As Josiah mentioned, participants can also ask questions. So please, all the participants, now we have 48, please consider yourself sitting in the cinema and being able to discuss with all of us on the podium, raise your hands and ask questions. And even if you would not have the time to answer all your questions on the podium in the next 1.5 hours, we would still have time to answer to these questions on Facebook or on Twitter. So you will get responses on social media. So please all consider the hashtag Social Market Economy KE, in which we can carry on debating about the topic even after the session is over. Before I come to an end, I would also ask all of us to take a break from the discussion about coronavirus for the next 1.5 hours. I think all of us has discussed this so often in the last days and months that today we would try to abstain from that. But still, of course, we live in times of coronavirus. And I think that after the health crisis, we may expect economic crises. And that might be a good reason to discuss about reforms in the economic system and how they can be done. And one of the guiding questions could, of course, be, can we work with social market economy here? I think that should be the guiding question for today. So without further ado, I would ask you to get your popcorn, get your drinks, and enjoy our great film. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jan, and thank you for the wonderful and quite an elaborate perspective of social markets economy. One of the things that we've been running, if you've been following us through on our social media links, as well as what we've been doing, they are snippets of videos and conversations that have been so far going about the social markets economy. And we've talked about, we've seen the small clips and the trailers of the videos that we're going to watch. So after this introductory that has been given by Jan, we're going to share a video and we're going to launch the video as to the reason as to why we're here was to virtually launch this video. And it's going to be running on 2 platforms. One is going to be shared here, and when it's shared here, meaning that within a very short time when it's queued in, all your screens will be showing the video. But also the video is going to be, because this is also live on Facebook, it's going to be live on Facebook. As well as that, then we also have it premiered on YouTube. So it's going to be running here, it's going to be running on Facebook Live, it's going to be on YouTube Premiere. So at this particular moment, we have the video that is going to be shared, and please sit back and enjoy the few minutes that is going to be on. And it's going to be queued in by my co-moderator, Christoph. Christoph, on your end.
My name is Maxwell. Dr. Maxwell Okoth.
I've had plenty of experience in this.
Since completing my studies, I've opened 5 maternal hospitals in Nairobi and its environs. I did this because I love my job, my country, and my people. 7 years since I began, I have to tell you this. Starting a business in Kenya sometimes can drive you crazy. I come from Konyango village in Kindu Bay, Homa Bay County. I'm the son of Mr. Robert Okoth and Pamela Nyawade. I attended my primary school in Sangu Academy, joined high school in Maseno School, after which I went for my university education in University of Nairobi, graduating with Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery in the year 2010. At 25, I started working as an intern in a government hospital. There were a lot of issues there.
Push harder. Fungua miguu tutoe placenta. Sister, nitie Dr. Okoth.
Long waiting times for emergency surgeries.
We are having our leaking placenta and the mother is bleeding excessively.
Understaffing. Lack of basic medication.
Do you have gynecological gloves?
No, we don't have them.
Lack of proper gloves.
Vumilia, mom.
Sometimes power went off in the middle of a surgery, and we had no choice but to improvise with our own torches.
Almost, mami kidogo tu.
Vumilia, vumilia.
I got it.
I had to make a decision to either continue like this or to try and do it better. I chose the latter. My goal was to build a hospital that defines new standards in service delivery, which is what people needed. But where to start? For some weeks I visited several places in Nairobi that I thought had issues with access to healthcare. I had different locations in mind, but finally in the east of Nairobi, I found a place. An old empty clinic in Ruai. First, I had to figure out the costs. I had never imagined such a large budget. Wow, where would I get all this money from? No bank could have given a loan to a young 25-year-old doctor with no security. But by borrowing from my mother and girlfriend, I finally managed to get my first seed capital. Additional to that, I approached the bank and got a check-off loan from my payslip. Finally, there was a light at the end of the tunnel. I started a month later. It wasn't easy. I was still doing my internship in the government hospital. I had to be there during the day for my shift. Thereafter, hopping a matatu for 2 hours to my clinic. I worked for more than 18 hours every day. I was forced to leave my clinic to be run by my employees. Did I have a day off during that time? No.
Hey, good night.
Okay, good night.
I had to pay back 232,000 Kenya shillings per month to service my debts. But my employees kept telling me that there were rarely patients showing up when I was not at my clinic. Surprisingly, when I was at my clinic, I could always see more than enough patients. But still, we were not able to meet our monthly obligations. I contemplated giving up. When my annual leave at the public hospital came up, I dedicated my entire 3 weeks to work 24/7 at the clinic. And amazingly, the figures were very different. My suspicion was confirmed. My employees were playing me. That's when I said, this can't go on. First, I quit my job in the public hospital. Then, I fired my old employees and hired new ones. I was now full-time at my clinic. Our services improved. Patient numbers increased. We were able to pay back the loan. We introduced new services which were not available in the area, such as X-rays, ultrasound, and maternity. After a year, my small clinic was now operating as a full maternity hospital. This gave me the idea of replicating this model across the entire nation. I started planning to open a second hospital outside Nairobi. Financing a new project is never easy, but this time was not as hard as it was when I first started. I had good figures to show from my small clinic, and now the banks were happy to finance. Between 2016 and 2019, I was able to open a total of 5 new hospitals. I have remained true to my vision, offering high-quality services at very affordable rates, increasing access to healthcare, and helping improve maternal care with investment in high-end diagnostic equipment. New chapter, 2018. We are an established brand. The facility has grown in terms of branches, with a total of 5 hospitals and more coming. For the first time, I am on the radar of others. The banks want their loans paid on time. Staff need to be paid on a monthly basis. Suppliers are constantly demanding payments.
The problem is you can look at
As a hospital, you're very much dependent on insurances to pay back the receivables in a short time.
This is not good.
If they delay in payments,
We would want you to pay this loan in 30 days maximum.
and the deadline for meeting the monthly obligations reaches, then the hospital is broke. The problems became even more serious when one of the major insurances changed its payment methods. In the beginning, the insurer was always my lifeline. It repaid the costs I had incurred in about 3 weeks. But suddenly, payment modalities changed. Why? Because it was speculated that state officials were misappropriating the funds. That almost brought me to the brink of ruin. Delays on payments can paralyze any business. It gets to a point when you can't pay your own staff, let alone buying medication. Another challenge for entrepreneurs in Kenya is cost of doing business. For example, you need a minimum of 11 licenses from different government authorities to run a healthcare facility. This doesn't come cheap and takes time. The biggest challenge that I face is dealing with corrupt government officials. They will try to get money off you even when you have all the required licenses. If you don't buy them a cup of tea, quote unquote, they threaten to close down your business. An example of these frustrations happened before I built my largest hospital, which is a capacity of 100 beds. The county government had promised to build a connecting road from the main road to the clinic. But 1 year after opening the hospital, nothing had been done. It was impossible for the patients on stretchers and wheelchairs to access the hospital, let alone the ambulances. I was forced to buy the plot next to the road in order to construct the road for easy access, an expense I had not budgeted for. And last but not least, there's a competition. If the services provided by the hospital are of high standards, word goes around and you get more patients coming from the other facilities. This does not go well with the operators of other facilities. It gets worse if your competitor is moneyed. Then they are able to buy media as well. And if your hospital is on prime news for several days, then that is a good indication that someone wants you out of business.
The services are pathetic. We are burning it down. No.
The services are so bad, we are tired and we pay a lot of money. Yes, they should close it down.
What follows is what we call a dirty game. They will try everything to damage your reputation. They will go to the extent of paying people to demonstrate against your facility.
There's nothing we have not done. We have complied by all means and all standards that are required. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Dr. Okoth, there's an emergency in room number 5.
8 years after starting my first hospital. Was it easy? No. Is it still worth continuing? Yes. Kenya needs more affordable healthcare facilities. I will not stop in my quest to fill this gap.
Thank you so much, Christoph, and thank you so much for all the participants who've joined in. And so then, having watched such a powerful video and seen what the journey has been and everything in relationship and any experience that has been, we are now going to go to panel discussion. But as we constitute the panel discussion, we are going to be comprised of Dr. Jan. You're going to be part and parcel of the discussion in the panel. We're going to be joined by Dr. Maxwell Okoth. We're going to have Dr. Ravi, the director of the video. We're going to be joined by Honorable Joe Geoffrey Osozi. And then finally, we're going to be joined by Terian Chebet. But just before then,
that we lost our moderator, so let me quickly get in. Chris
didn't take long.
So far, as he mentioned in the movie, he has done an expansion of five hospitals. One is a 50-bed hospital in Ruai, 10-bed maternity hospital in Tala, 24 outpatient facility in Bakassi, an outpatient facility at Jacaranda Gardens, and 100-bed multi-special hospital in Ruai. The chain is currently serving about 500 patients per day, and has a plan to expand and go even beyond the East African region. Probably before it goes to the East African region, we would want to be in each and every country, but then goals cannot be limited. He said prior to being the CEO, he also worked, actually would wonder, did he work within the local hospitals, which he did. Says he worked in various capacities as the Deputy Director of Health Services and Medical Superintendent in Mutini Hospital within Nairobi country, where he was charged with the responsibility of upgrading the hospital. He started off as a dispensary. At the time when he was leaving, he had foreseen the opening of the maternity wing of the same, and the hospital started operation from a day hospital to 24-hour service. Later on, Dr. Maxwell has been awarded, he was the Young Top Male Entrepreneur of Under 35 Award, and in 19, he was awarded Top 40 to 40 Business Award. So as I bring him to the conversation, Dr. Maxwell, how has it been for you in this journey so far?
Thank you, Josiah. I hope I'm clear to everyone. How has it been in this journey? I think it's not an easy journey, to say the truth. The number of times you feel like you want to give up. It's your daily norm. You're always fighting something, and sometimes you even lose yourself as a person. So, in a short form of it, it's not been easy, to say the truth. Yes, and it's still not easy. We get harder along the way. Yes.
Okay. Jean, from the perspective of CAS per se, why did you choose Dr. Okoth, and why was it necessary to highlight the story on social markets economy, especially the health angle?
When we did start the research for this film, we were actually researching for good stories and for strong entrepreneurs. We didn't have in mind that we would have a film afterwards on health or on the health business. It was important for us to have an entrepreneur that has to tell a strong story, and they had to overcome lots of obstacles. I remember that I was sitting together with Ravi on my veranda, and we were discussing what obstacles can we show, how can we make this? And then we were actually surprised how good Dr. Maxwell fits into our concept, because he had to overcome, as we were seeing, so many obstacles, and he's still there. So he is a business hero, and still he is a very good example for an entrepreneur in a market economy. I'm not always sure if Kenya is a social market economy. And that's, I think, something we can discuss. How can we make the system a bit more welcoming for entrepreneurs, so that they have better chances to build a good enterprise? And I think we can all be sure that what Dr. Maxwell is doing is a good thing. He's not drilling for oil and displacing people. He's making people healthy. And still, he had to fight along his way. So I think it was a very good example to see how difficult it is, even if you do good business. And the second aspect is, as you saw in the video, he's not a professional actor, and he is very good before the camera. So when we saw him, we saw, yes, he is the one we can choose easily, because he could also be an actor. So I think if Dr. Maxwell would not be motivated again anymore for medical services, I think he could have a career also in acting. And back to Christoph.
Okay. We're going to bring on board the honorable member, Dr. Geoffrey Osozi. He's a nominated member of parliament, he's a member of ANC party, and he's also a member of the House Business Committee. He is an alumni of UN, where he did the PhD in IT management, and also did his JQuat in the Executive Masters in Business Administration. But one thing that we'd want to ask from Dr. Osozi is just find out what are some of the things that Parliament is doing to enhance the business space. And in that perspective, we are looking at that last year alone, Kenya was ranked as number 56 out of 190 economies. How is the space being enhanced for the Kenyan entrepreneurs, especially in the social markets economy perspective? Dr. Honorable Osozi.
Through because I'm truly staying at home and working from home. One, I want to say that the story is very inspiring for many Kenyans, not just young people, but all of us, how he has been able to go through the challenges that are common to every Kenyan entrepreneur, what we go through. But most importantly is the story is a good one, especially at this point in time when we are thinking about COVID-19 and adequacy of healthcare. But to go to direct to your question on what Parliament is trying to do. Parliament has a number of initiatives which they are trying to do to improve the business environment. One is that you may be aware that every year we have a round table business engagement with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. We meet every year, all members of Parliament with the members of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, where we discuss scenarios changing scenarios in the industry and what legislative framework we can come up with. And I want to tell you that most of the recent legislative activities or actions that have been taken have emanated from this engagement with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. Number two, we have really come up with numerous pieces of legislation to help entrepreneurs in this country, and also to boost the business environment under which every business person works with. Of course, having listened to his video, one of the issues that comes up is the issue of cost of doing business in Kenya, where you need 11 licenses. As Parliament, we are trying to do something around this. We have a committee on trade, which is currently working with the industry to try and see how this can be reduced so that you do not need to have numerous licenses for you to operate a business in Kenya. Thirdly, we have numerous committees in Parliament which handle various sectorial issues. We have a committee on trade, we have a committee on ICT where I sit, we have a committee on health, we virtually have committees catering for all sectors of the economy. And this, it's very useful to the industry. Then lastly, the issue of corruption. Corruption, you will agree with me, that is a major cancer in this country, but Parliament has tried to deal with this problem through our oversight committees, Public Accounts Committee and Public Investment Committee. A lot of things have been done, and I want to commend the Public Accounts Committee as a committee that has done a wonderful job. Because as we are talking now, they are very current with their audit reports. And also, we also conduct oversight session in all the about 22 departmental committees that we have. So something is being done in Parliament, a lot of laws are being formulated. But as you say, in Kenyan setup, the problem is not inadequacy of laws. I think it has also to do with the attitude issues, political goodwill by those who are in the executive. So it goes beyond just having the laws in place. It is more to do with attitude. It is more. I'll hold you on that political. I'll hold you on that political goodwill. I'll come back to you on this. I want to bring in the gentleman who has done this impeccable work with shooting the video and coming through all the pieces together. Is called Ravi Kalmakar. After studying history of arts, Ravi directed theater plays and trained approximately 150 actors in method acting. In 1995, as a radio and TV reporter in Europe's biggest national TV, he produced over 1,000 features on cultural and social aspects. Since 2002, Ravi has produced and directed over 250 films, among them numerous award-winning TV documentaries and docufiction on major German channels. So meaning that he's been extensive in the work. But Ravi, if I could just put you back to this conversation and have you just detail what was the choice of Dr. Okoth, the most obvious one, and why did you find this story compelling?
Yes. I just was wondering whether my microphone is on or not. It is. So good evening ladies and gentlemen, I feel very honored to be part of this launch. First of all, thank you to Konrad Adenauer Stiftung to having me. And again, thanks to Dr. Maxwell Okoth taking the journey also with us as a film team, because I know it was quite a lot of work and very tiring to reenact all these situations we have seen in the film. I agreed with Dr. Jan Czernicki that this was really a good acting aspect, but it was not acted. What we have seen are reenactments of his real life. So everything what we have shown were chapters of the last years. And so I'm really, really excited to have this here today. Now, coming back to your question, Sir Josiah, what was the reason choosing? First, may I just also underline that we checked on around about 30 entrepreneurs, women and men, and found Dr. Maxwell Okoth's story the most thrilling, as there were so many obstacles to overcome. He had to overcome in this short period of time, and he did so, and he's survived. We have to he could have failed on the one or the other part, but he survived, and he's still doing good, and he's even doing better than ever. So we found this very thrilling, and we thought that he might be also a good role model for others to follow him, because there are a lot of young entrepreneurs who are just starting right now, and I think they might face the same challenges. And may I also thank Honorable Godfrey Osoti for pointing out what the government tries to do to enhance young entrepreneurs. I think it's a good way. May I just refer also to my German Indian background. As you pointed out, Josiah, yes, a long time of my life I also was living and working in Germany, but for 6 years nearly I'm here in Kenya, so I can compare it quite good. So what we have in Germany, for instance, is social market economy, which is a system which is really, really successful. Also now in these times, in Corona times, you can see that social market economy is really a backbone also of the German society. So for people not panicking, although it is really also economically seen very problematic at the moment. And I would wish for a lot of Kenyans that they also could participate in a social market economic system, because me as a young man, as a young entrepreneur who started a film business himself, I also could take advantage of such a system which backed me. There were quite a lot of possibilities to get something like a funding, and also a lot of measures which helped me also to set up my business quickly and safe. I think it's totally different than what Dr. Maxwell Okoth experienced, being something like a jungle fighter, so to say, and really having all those challenges and being completely on his own. And with every decision he had to take, he was standing in front of yes or no. Shall I do it or shall I die? So this is really something else. In Germany, it's not that harsh. And I think, but it's also, and because it's not that harsh, it's also enhancing the economy quite a lot. So I think a few more measures could really help the Kenyan economy growing much faster than it does now, right now. Thank you.
Since it seems like we've lost our moderator just a few seconds ago, this is my time to step in. So let me ask Terry and Shabbat, you're yourself a reporter or journalist on business issues in Kenya. And as far as I understood, kind of a businesswoman yourself by such. So maybe, can you tell us something about the challenges and struggles you have experienced already, and also how you see yourself as a journalist in the political discourse and the topics that you want to raise, and how you do that?
Can you hear me now? All right. Well, thank you so much for that. As you say, yes, I am a business journalist, and I've been for just over 15 years, and that always makes me sound old when I say it, but it's the truth. I've done that. I've been a business journalist for 15 years, and it's stories like that of Dr. Maxwell, who I've had the pleasure of meeting before, that really reminds me of some of the really critical elements of journalism and what we as Kenyan journalists have completely forgotten to do. I watched that story, and as I've said before, because I've met Dr. Maxwell, and I asked myself, why is it that we journalists have been not completely unable, but have not been able to tell stories, especially from the social economy perspective, which makes such a big impact, because those are stories that Kenyans identify with on a day-to-day. So listening to the film that was done on Dr. Maxwell, and just listening to the conversation that we're having, including some of the points that have been brought forward by Ravi, I'm taken back to what the basics of journalism is. You know, it's telling stories that connect. It's being the watchdog. It's as a business journalist, and I remember, you know, conversations that I've had with media houses that I've worked with, that sort of allude to the fact that as business journalists, we sort of steal the story away from the regular person. We're so big on trying to look smart and act smart and report on big things, you know, like market capitalization and, you know, liquidity and things that the regular person on the street will not really understand. So in my business journalism journey, especially where I am now, is looking at it a little bit more introspectively and asking, I am a journalist, I'm a business journalist, but how can I connect the regular person on the street, the regular Kenyan who's a hustler in the way we call, you know, the small and micro enterprise? What are we doing to ensure that these people who are running, and you know, the majority of Kenyans today are actually in that little micro space. But for me as a journalist, for the first time in many years, I'm asking, what's a place of a business journalist in an economy that is run by the really small and micro entrepreneurs or the SME sector? Not the businesses that are running into the billions, but the ones that are making the millions, the ones that will be the billionaires and running the economy of tomorrow, the likes of Dr. Maxwell. So for me as a journalist, it's coming back to the basics and also looking for stories that inspire young people and that inspire our population to begin to see that there's value in starting small. There's value in starting something that is not only a business, but it has a social impact as well. And, you know, I don't know if I've answered your questions in the way that you wanted me to answer, but I'm just seeing, you know, with everything that's going on around us now, there's never been a better time to be a business journalist. You know, everybody who runs the economy today, especially in the economy such as the ones we have in East Africa today, as business journalists, we need to move away from big business, from corporate news, and connect with the really small people that are running our economy today. Because no matter how big government is, no matter how big business is, it's a small person that runs the economy. But I feel, having been a business journalist for 15 years, we haven't really created content or tried to connect the little person on the street selling masks or selling vegetables to the business in terms of how do they grow their business? How do they find opportunities? So for me, and where I sit as a journalist today, it's creating more impact, which brings a little bit of the social economy into place, because we've always been a very, you know, capitalistic, we're reporting on capital business space. But now more than ever, we have a chance to actually look at what is the impact of our reporting. Can you hear
I'm
me?
back. Yes, I can hear you. Just to get us back to Dr. Maxwell, say, when you talk about your experience, when you talk about how you deal with them, and when you talk about the resilience that you've had, are there moments when the bureaucracy system has really frustrated your effort? And how were you looking at them to be different for you in setting up business of this magnitude?
If I would get your question right, is how's the bureaucracy frustrated me, I guess?
Yes.
Yes, and how I've been able to overcome it.
Yes.
Okay. One thing I would say, I mean, we are all Kenyans and we are proud of our country, but sometimes we need to challenge ourselves so that we make a better nation. It's not very easy to get anything done in this country. I know it's not a good statement that we want to hear, but things they don't just move smoothly always. I mean, there'll always be an obstacle for you to overcome. And for me, I always say, I look at it as a challenge rather than an obstacle. And I'd always want to push myself harder so that whoever is trying to put for me a roadblock would one day look back and be ashamed of themselves. We have a lot of, there are things that would be very easy to overcome, but the system has just made them a bit too difficult. But one thing on looking at a brighter side is there's been a lot of improvements of late, and that is something we need to accept and appreciate. Systems are becoming better and smoother. Procedures are very clear. I think there's a lot of goodwill of late in terms of making operations a bit easier. Other than that, I think there also needs to be, you know, when you come from school, nobody teaches you how some of these things are done. And learning them without any knowledge is one of the most hardest thing and most expensive thing. There are people out there who know that ignorance is there and they are eating on that ignorance and they're eating from that ignorance. So as you've seen from the story, I started straight from university. I was just an intern. First, you don't know how do you even get a license of a facility. So if you fall in the hands of a con man, they would easily take money from you. Before you realize the reality, then, I mean, you've lost tens of thousands. So that information needs to be out there. What are the systems? What are the protocols? What are the procedures? If you want this done, who do you go to from there? Who next do you go to? I think if we can be able to do that, we can be able to save a lot of young Kenyans to be able to get their things done. Yes.
Okay. And this is where I now bring in Honorable Geoffrey. One of the things that it said that if it doesn't work, then let's just fix it. And for a very long period of time, one of the things that Kenyans have complained about is the ease of doing business, getting the, you hear in Dr. Okoth's case, we have to get 11 permits. And of course, these permits are not gotten from one spot. So what is just so hard in just changing the policies and influencing them? And considering that you mentioned the political goodwill. So does it mean that there is no political goodwill for Kenyans, or what is just hard from the perspective of leadership?
Well, you remember I said earlier, this country is not inadequate of laws, policies, regulation. All those things are there. What we really lack in this country is, to a large extent, though we have seen an improvement, political goodwill. And political goodwill demonstrates itself in various ways. One is the tax regime in this country. I have seen just one of the panelists asking about the various taxes one is supposed to pay to do business in this country. It's just too much. And, you know, that is really the work of the executive to try and provide the right tax regime that will facilitate business. The other bit is incentives to entrepreneurs and business people. I think that's one area that we are not doing well as a country, and that has a lot to do with the political goodwill that is there in the country. Then the policies and the laws. Parliament has done quite a lot in terms of coming up, formulating various pieces of legislation, various pieces of policies, But most of these things, they lie on the shelves unimplemented. So we have a serious problem of implementation because we do not need to reinvent the wheel. We have the laws, we have the policies in place, but those people in executive, because in this country we have 3 arms of government, must be able to implement the laws and the policies that Parliament comes up with. We have gone ahead as Parliament to set up a committee on implementation. So I think this would, in a large way, improve the implementation of various laws and policies that are going to support growth of business. The other bit is systems and technology. I think as a country, for the last 10 years, we've done quite a lot in terms of promotion of technology, digitalization. Now we are, our entrepreneurs, our business people are able to use technology to support their business. And one of the greatest things that happened, which I want to appreciate the executive for, is the coming up of Huduma centers. Really, this is a good idea, but I think a lot needs to be done, and I'm in the committee that is looking at this, so that we try and make it easy for entrepreneurs to access government services from one point. Just like
so, Honorable, if I could just chip in and task you to this, I would just find out. So for how long are we going to bank on the aspect of goodwill that is never forthcoming? With each and every system that comes in, we keep on talking about goodwill, goodwill, goodwill. Up to what point are we going to say that this is not about goodwill anymore? It's about the systems that are supposed to work for us?
Well, I think one of the things that we need to do, especially from a legislative point of view, is to enhance the oversight, do more oversight of the executive, so that some of these bottlenecks are able to be dealt with and the Kenyans are made to know about it, and also involvement of Kenyans. And I'm happy our constitution provides for public participation, so that in everything that we do, the public, who in this case may include the entrepreneurs, are involved. And I think if that is done, we'll be able to deal with this challenge of political goodwill. But we are not as bad as we used to be 10, 15 years ago. A lot has been done, but there is room for improvement to improve the business environment, to improve opportunities to our entrepreneurs so that it can do a lot more. And as I said earlier on, as Parliament, we have tasked the Committee on Trade and Investment to try and address this issue of entrepreneurship and innovation, so that we get a lot of young people joining the entrepreneurship process.
Thank you. Dr. Yan, in the aspect of looking at the social markets economy, and especially if you translate it to what is in German, how is it in comparison, and is it something that is penetrating into the Kenyan system, or what is the reception of the same in the Kenyan aspect?
First of all, I would like to agree to what Honorable Sotsi just said, that Kenya did lots of very good steps in a good direction in the last years. I arrived in Kenya nearly 4 years ago, and in this time, Kenya's economic policy improved significantly. So congrats to the Honorable. I think you do a good job there. Still, I would like to point out some things that also Terry Ann, who actually looks rather young, so don't be afraid, has mentioned. I also agree that it's really important to stress small and medium enterprises, the famous SMEs, much more than this is done in many countries, because, and that's the German example, they are the backbone of an economy. Small enterprises bring innovation. They are dynamic, they move quickly, they have ideas. And these need to be protected. And that means there needs to be a clear policy on intellectual property, so that small enterprises can use their innovations and can grow with them. And then, of course, the entrepreneurs that push them also can get rich with that. And second of all, there is a need to fight against monopolies, because monopolies block innovations. They push small and medium-sized companies out. They don't let them innovate, and they just push them away because they are so strong and powerful. And I think that is something that is really important to look at for a functioning market economy. There was a question actually in the chat, which I saw, about the playing field for multinationals. Do they get better treatment compared to local businesses? I don't believe that this is the case. Still, what I know better than the Kenyan economy is still the German economy, for which I lived all besides the 4 years I'm living in Kenya. And that's really important that, of course, you have companies coming in with money, big companies, to invest and to create jobs. But of course, they need to stick to the rules and make sure that they don't become the new monopolies and push away the local innovative small and medium-sized companies. So I think a really important step is to carry on in the policies that have been started in Kenya, that have been pushed through, to provide good environments for small and medium-sized enterprises. I would have another part as a response on the social aspects. It will be short, maybe I can come back to that later, because we talk about social market economy. I also think if you want to have entrepreneurs, lots of entrepreneurs with good ideas, there is need for a good, fair and affordable educational system. Schools, also universities in Germany, they are free, really free. That means you don't have any hidden taxes. You can study and go to school in good quality in most parts of the country. And also you need a security network.
Okay.
You want, of course, that people can compete with each other.
Okay.
If somebody cannot, then it's necessary that people are saved and don't starve in the end. And of course, and that's my last word, because I see that Giuseppe comes first, I'm talking too long. Of course, that means if you want to have a strong social system, we need to pay taxes for that. That costs money, of course. And so that's what I think is important, that Kenyans learn it makes sense to pay taxes because they are paid for important social services. And then, of course, I think also that the motivation to pay taxes would be higher than it is right now. Because then people would understand, yes,
Okay.
my kids to do that. Thanks.
Oh, okay. So, Terian, I would just love to ask you this question in perspective of the media. In the media, we have the famous say that when a dog bites a man, that is not news. But when a man bites a dog, that is when it's proper news. What is the space of developmental journalism? Stories that highlight on the great work by like Dr. Maxwell Okoth.
You know, it's one of the questions that I constantly sorry about the light. It's one of the questions that I constantly ask myself as a journalist, specifically a business journalist, because especially in the political space, and as you correctly say, when you're in school, journalism school at that, it is, you know, when a dog bites a man, it isn't news, and when a man bites a dog, that's when it's news. And I think we've taken it home a little bit too much. And we just need to unbox that a little bit, because as journalists, at the end of the day, when we call ourselves the society's watchdog, it isn't just about corruption. It isn't just about big business. It's also about making a difference in the position and in the places and in the spaces that we're in. So just to answer your question, you know, there's many ways in which journalism is changing with the times. I'm one of those who fought development journalism for a very long time, especially, you know, I'm a business journalist. So as a business journalist, the majority of the news is usually within the very, you know, capital markets, which is not a very social, you know, space to look at. And one of the things I knew, even with the organization that I'm working for today, and when we sit down as a team, the first question I ask, and the first question we ask, is how are we connecting with the people? And when we say the people, who are the people? When we're reporting on big business, when we're reporting on corporate deals, when we're reporting on the capital markets, how many people are we reaching? You know, the majority of Kenyans today, as I'd said in my first answer, are within the they can't even be classified as SMEs. You can't even classify them as micro businesses. You know, the local term we use is hustlers. But as journalism, especially within the journalism space, we look at it from such a high technical, because a business journalism student is supposed to understand the language that the central bank speaks. You know, we're supposed to understand the language that the treasury speaks. But at the end of the day, and this is what I always tell my team, is if we do not reach and change the life of the woman who's selling vegetables on the street, then we're not doing our work. Okay. Business journalism cannot be just big and, you know, be held at a certain level. So it's always has to come down to how do we connect? It may be big business, it may be corporate business, but at the end of the day, we need to find the social economic aspect of every person that may be in our audience.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting questions online as well, and also follow the conversation on hashtag Social Economy Market KE. That is going on Twitter as well as Facebook. Ravi, if I may just ask you this, from your experience and how the stories within the society are highlighted on, what do you think what is the best way of telling more stories like Dr. Maxwell's story? And as you answer that, then what was your best highlights with working when you're working with him?
Okay, two questions. Maybe I start with the highlight. Working with him, what I liked. So we shot in the hospitals, and so being there and seeing the patients trying to get help, and also the nurses being very active and trying to really help the people over there. This touched me very much, first of all. And second is also, I could also feel that Dr. Maxwell was very much, very busy in order to get all the details right. So there was constantly a flow of messages, of questions from his people, like, what shall I do? What shall I not do? So he was all the time, so to say, 24/7, he was reachable for them and tried to solve issues. So this touched me also very much. And I think if you don't have this attitude, then you can't succeed. This is something I'm very convinced. And I'm afraid I lost your first question, Jaya. Can you repeat it, please?
I'm just saying the first question was about how do we tell more stories such like Dr. Maxwell's stories from the economy based on the experience that you have back in Germany? Okay.
So it always takes two to tango. So it also needs an interest, or it needs the curiosity of broadcasters, for instance. So what I could do also in Germany, I was able to shoot a lot of entrepreneur films for the German national TV, because there was a big interest in how small entrepreneurs are doing their job. How are they trying to get their ideas on the market? So having this window, we were able to present a lot of small business entrepreneurs, business starters, startup businesses. And so again, it takes two sides. You have the entrepreneurs on the one side, and you have a broadcaster on the other side having also interest. I'm not quite sure how big the interest is here. So therefore, I was very thankful to find in Konrad Adenauer Stiftung and in Dr. Jan Czernicki a colleague who is really interested in such stories. And there we are with the first movie from which highlights the journey of Dr. Maxwell Okoth. Thank you.
Okay, so I just have a few questions that are coming from the audience, and the first one goes to Honorable Sozi. They asking what Samuel Mdoe is asking, how is the Parliament acting to put in place legislative terms that are and policies that are going to protect, especially the young upcoming business person? So that question goes to Honorable Sozi. Then Dr. Okoth, you also have a question from one of the participants. It say, did you have someone who was your coach, who mentored you during your entrepreneurial journey? And then they also do ask, say, is it possible we can have the media stations that are dedicated and having only inspiring stories as such? That question goes to Terian. And then the last question that is coming from the audience is asking, so what is your experience? This goes to Dr. Maxwell. He said, what is your experience with the tax regime as an entrepreneur? And would you recommend for any improvement in the tax law? Not necessarily, I would start with Dr. Maxwell.
Okay, thank you very much, Josiah. Two questions. Did I have a coach? I'll not lie, I didn't have a coach the better part of the journey. I've just had my family as my pillar that has helped me through. When I did my Stanford course, that's when I realized you actually need people to give you insights and guide you. And that was the first time that I had a business coach who was a faculty of Stanford. And from there, we came up with a board of advisors who now act as board of governors, because we realized that corporate governance is very important. And that's one lesson that we miss a lot in most of the businesses that we start. That businesses start putting structures when they're very mature. It's like trying to bend a tree when it's up there. So yeah, I didn't have a coach initially. I was a lone ranger trying to push myself, and sometimes it gets overbearing. Like I said earlier, you can actually lose yourself as a person. And so when the coach came in, sometimes you just need someone to bounce back on and reflect. And sometimes they'll give you a dimension that you'd never thought of in solving issues. To the second question, what is the tax regime and the tax law? This is a very difficult question because nobody wants to make enemies with the taxman. Yes, we've had a couple of demand letters here and there once in a while, not because we do not want to pay, but because we have also not been paid. And so I think to the Honorable, I think we need to have laws, to the Member of Parliament, we need to have laws that safeguard and secure businesses. And one thing I would say, Kenya being a consumption economy, almost every serious business does business with the government. The moment the government does not pay, those businesses do not pay their suppliers, and their suppliers do not pay their suppliers, and becomes a ripple effect. And part of these things are also the tax obligations, because I can actually declare that I owe the taxman, but I actually don't have the money to pay that taxman because the same government has not paid me. If you watched at this, you'll realize that there's a part, we said one of our insurances changed their payment modalities. And here I am, I'm meant to pay a salary and I'm meant to pay payee on this salary, but I've not received the claims. Healthcare is a debt business. It's basically a credit business. 90 to 80% of our business is credit. Sometimes you wait for this money for about 150 days for you to be paid, but you have obligations to pay every 30 days, including the taxman himself. So if one of these organizations doesn't pay you, then where else are you going to get this money to pay? And the taxman doesn't smile with anyone, especially any businessman in this country lately knows that they do not smile with anyone. Before you realize, you have an agency notice on your account, and that account that doesn't have money is already frozen. So I think we need to have regulations that have a way to protect business, in that the government knows that they need to pay people within a certain period, which is pegged on the law, failure to which there's an interest perspective. And this applies to even us. Even me, I need to have a regulation that I need to pay my suppliers within a certain period. And this can only work if it is a cycle that is complete. So if the government pays, let's say the insurance companies that we serve, they would be able to pay us on time, and we'd be able to pay the people who supply us on time, and we'd also be able to pay the tax on time. Of course, the Kenyan tax regime is very high. That goes without question. But again, we have to pay it because that's the only way the government can survive. But paying it is not the issue. Is do you have the actual funds to pay it? Because in business, and any business person, you'll realize you can actually have money, but you're very broke because most of this money is on paper. So those are the biggest challenges we face as a business. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably just a rejoinder to the same question. Somebody is asking, so on the basis of having a mentor, you say, what are you doing? Are you mentoring the young people? What are the space that you've given them? And how do you ensure that you groom a few more people like you? That's just a rejoinder to the same question.
I think this is on record. I think I've helped bring up a bit, I think about 10 healthcare facilities in this country through mentoring and advising them. Young doctors, colleagues, classmates who wanted to set up shop, I've been able to guide them. You can never reinvent the wheel. There are some places that we learned the hard way, and I've helped a couple of people to find it smooth. Number two, I've been holding a couple of mentoring sessions. So we've done some with Strathmore University. We partnered with Barclays Bank as well. And so if somebody comes up for mentoring, I think too much is given, much is expected. That's what I was taught. And so you don't need to ask for anything to give back to society. It's something I would willingly do anytime this.
Okay, over to you, Terry Ann, on your question. Terry Ann?
Yes, I can hear you. Could you just, I think reading all these comments on the side have distracted me a little bit.
Yeah.
What was the specific question?
The question was on the media. I say it was.
Oh, the positive stories.
Yes.
Yes. No, you see, one of the biggest things that I've dealt with as a journalist is, you see, the media is a reflection of our economy today. We tell the stories of things that are happening around us. And in as much as we may want to be positive and tell good stories, we're a reflection of the reality. So it cannot be kumbaya, all the way. It's in as much as I also struggle with the fact that we only tell the stories of when the man bites the dog, but I've also found within the organization that I work for today, which is a business channel, that it's easier for us to tell these stories of Kenyans doing things out there because they actually are doing things. So in as much as we, find the space to tell the truth and to always say, this is what's happening, this is what the politics looks like, and this is the impact of the politics to the economy. Luckily for me, in the space that we're operating in today, we've found a space where we're connecting with people that are inspiring. So it's the entrepreneurs, it's the the mama mbogas, the people who started from zero, the people who are growing their businesses. So to answer the question in the shortest form possible, it's not absolutely right for any media house to always just sell the positive stories and tell positive stories, because the media is a reflection of the society we're in today. So in as much as, yes, we do tell stories as they happen, there's a gap to tell stories that aren't told. I know Dr. Maxwell story has been told a number of times, and that's one of the positive stories that we look up to. And even as we look at the comments that are, coming through, there's a lot of inspiration that has come out from from the film that was shared before. So for me, finally, I'm in a place where we can share, similar stories. We can look for young people who are doing things with the little that they have, and still manage to balance that, strong journalism aspect of putting fire to the feet of those who are in government, but at the end of the day, still ask ourselves, what have we really done? Have we impacted the people that we need to impact? The small businesses that have started out with nothing but a little capital out there, have we shown them how they can move from point A to point B? Have we told them which ways they can look for capital? Have we shown them in which ways they can begin to formalize their businesses for them to be attractive for investment? And for us, in little small ways, then we're able to make that little impact from either training, capacity building, or just information. So yes, there's a space for positivity in the news, but we cannot always hide from the fact that it's not, as I said before, not kumbaya all the way.
Okay. Ravi. Ravi, are you online?
Yes, now I'm online. I think you can hear me now.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes. Sure, Josiah, you want me to comment Terry Ann, or is it about a question which you presented?
It's more in perspective of the media, and I'm asking this based on your experience on the media. So, do we have space to highlight on these stories from the Kenyan perspective, having been in this space as well?
Well, if Terry Ann just pointed out that somehow they are doing it, but I would not only wait for broadcaster. It's also about this could also be private initiative where people just decide to collect those stories. Terry Ann just pointed out it's not only about positive stories, but what we pointed out very well with Maxwell's stories is it's light and shadow very, very near to each other. This was not a video clip about how to get an entrepreneur, but we showed that it's a lot of struggle and how to overcome the struggle. So that's why I like the story and also shooting it. I'm sure there are much more stories out there from young entrepreneurs, women and men, trying their best. And maybe it's also something. May I kindly come back to Honorable Godfrey Osoti, that maybe also the government could put up a channel in order to collect those stories, to highlight our Kenyan business heroes. There are some outside, so. And as I told you, we met a lot of people also doing the research for the real hero, where we could see they are really trying to find their way, and they are looking for mentors. They are looking also for heroes or for role models. So maybe it also could be something the government could also enhance.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so just on the queue for the government, Honorable Sozi, this is where I'm bringing you on board, and there are a good number of the youth are asking, are there legislative policies and laws that are protecting specifically the young entrepreneurs as a Kenyan? Honorable Sozi.
Quite a number of laws that support growth of entrepreneurship in this country. In the area of youth, recently we made amendments to the National Youth Council, amendments which were geared towards enhancing innovation, entrepreneurship among our youth. And as you are aware also, we also passed a new Copyright Act, which basically looks at issues to do with intellectual property in the area of music, in the area of ICT and all that. So we have enhanced various laws that support youth. And also, we also made amendments to the Company Act to remove those draconian provisions. So it is very easy for a youth, even an individual youth, to start up a business, which is recognized as a company. So in terms of legislation, a lot has been done. But allow me to go deeper into issues like funding opportunities.
Yeah.
We as a parliament, we have come up with various funds to support entrepreneurs in all segments. We have a fund for the youth. You know, we have a youth fund, which provides funds for investment for youth. We also have a fund for women. And we also have funds like sports fund to support youth who want to invest in sports. So all these funds are there to provide funding opportunities for the youth. But we still have a lot of challenges in administrative management of this youth, because we are told that some youth are not able to repay back the loans they take from these funds. And that is one of the major challenges which government has to look at. The other aspect is the cost and access to finance. You know that the last parliament, they passed a law to put a capping on the interest rate, because Kenyans and entrepreneurs largely were complaining that the cost of finance is very high in this country. So we had to put in a capping to the interest rate to allow as many entrepreneurs, as many youth to access credit from the bank. But last year, the government came up and said, no, this interest rate capping is killing SMEs. And we said, yes, let's give it a moment and see how it works. It is unfortunate that the scenario is back again. People are complaining of high cost of credit. So this is one issue that is really impeding the growth of businesses among the youth. The issue of ownership management, as I had said, we have come up with specific legislation to protect intellectual property. And this is one of the challenges that youth go through. And if I go back to Dr. Maxwell, who said there is a challenge of suppliers being paid in time. This is an issue that we have noted. In the last meeting we had with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, this issue came up. And I think Parliament is doing something around it so that to put it in law, that if you deliver goods to an organization, you must be paid within 30 days. Because what is happening is that especially the suppliers who supply to counties, some of them have not been paid. And Parliament has gone further to also insist that we must prioritize payment of pending bills. And I'm happy our government has taken that into account. And tomorrow on Wednesday, we will be discussing the supplementary budget, which mainly focuses on COVID-19 pandemic, and also looks at the issues of pending bills, so that all pending bills are cleared before we go to the next financial year. So a lot is being done in the area of digitalization, where there are quite a number of opportunities. We have a program called Ajira program, which is being done by government to try and educate youth on opportunities available in the digital space.
Okay. As we prepare, Dr. Jan, I'm coming back to you, and then the next round that I'll be coming to all of you would be your parting shots. But before I go to Dr. Jan, I see Dr. Maxwell has a question. Dr. Maxwell, say, shoot your question, sir.
Okay, it's not a question. It's just a rejoinder into what Mheshimiwa said. Yes, I think most guys, and I'm seeing a lot of questions coming from the youth. We need to applaud the government where they've done well. I think something that didn't come out of this story is, I was actually a beneficiary of the youth fund. I got 1.8 million Kenya shillings from the youth fund. Actually, that's what made us move from a clinic to the first hospital. And you can see what that 1.8 further to the money that I borrowed from my mother and girlfriend that really made RFH what it is today. And so with that legislation that the government did, the 1.8 has been able to increase the number of people who are employed in this country today. And so I would also want to ask that, yes, over and above giving businesses to that cap, I think I have 1 year to stop being called a youth anymore. But would we have another fund that also moves businesses from a certain level to the next? Because this should be a proof of concept to the government that it can actually work from 3 employees to 160. What next would you do if they give another fund that now boosts certain middle level businesses to now multinationals? Because we can actually have multinationals coming from within this country. Yes, so to the youth who are there asking for capital, I think the capital is out there. I borrowed from Youth Fund, I didn't know anyone. I followed the procedure and actually got the money and I paid back and finished, so yes.
Okay. Dr. Jan, even as we further this conversation of social market economy in Kenya, for the people who are attending and even the people who will follow through, what would CAS look out to them and what would CAS tell them to be part and parcel of this journey? How can they be part and parcel of this journey?
I think one important thing to understand is that Konrad Adenauer Stiftung is a political foundation. And I saw questions about support to young entrepreneurs, for training for entrepreneurs or for funding. That is not what CAS is doing. We are working on the frameworks, on the political frameworks. And that is why one thing we're doing is to accelerate discussions and debates about how we can reform the economic system together with all important stakeholders. And second of all, to provide spaces in which we can actually do this together with decision makers. And I would propose, and also come back to a promise I gave to Dr. Maxwell, that we don't just do a film here, but we would like to carry on with meaningful political discussions that would lead to reforms of the economic framework. So my suggestion would be that after this the session today, we could try to sit together with Dr. Maxwell, with Honorable Sotsi, and also with Terry Ann, and maybe with some of your colleagues in media and in politics, to really try to work on some realistic and implementable suggestions to work a little bit more for social market economy and for small and medium enterprises, and to really come up with something realistic. There can be something small. It could be, of course, politics is about small steps, but that's what we can do, and that I would be happy to do. Another point for young people that ask for support is that we do, for example, our mentoring program. That is, of course, mainly on the political side, but still it helps young people to understand how they can actually work for their issues and change systems also in small steps to make their spaces where they live a little bit better. And I think that's also important for somebody who would like to become an entrepreneur, to understand how he or she can move small things, form alliance with other people and work together with them. I think that is also not only politics, but that can also lead to entrepreneurship and to your own company.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the last few minutes, I'm just told by the social media team that we've been trending at number 5. So follow the conversation and ensure that you put in the hashtag social markets economy. And so I hope that we can push this and probably trend at number 1. As we prepare our parting shots, and I'm starting with Ravi, one of the things that we're looking at a situation whereby the health sector has suffered a big, massive impact in terms of stretching the facilities and also the resources. But there is hope by the end of the day. So then one of the questions that I would ask, and this is a general question, is what are some of those things to look out for as the economy is going to bounce, and with your winding up sentiment, Ravi?
Okay. To be honest, I would like to pass on the question to Dr. Maxwell, because he had to face so many problems on his way building up 5 hospitals, and he's a very young man, 33 year old. So I think he might answer this question much better than I can. Thank you.
Okay. Terian, do you have anything for your parting shot, and also on what to look forward to, even as we hope for a better tomorrow? The microphone, your microphone is off. Oh yeah.
All right, my apologies for that. So my takeout is the need for collaboration. You know, the economy as we know it today is becoming more and more collaborative than we've known before. And I'm coming from a point of view, you remember there was a time when an NGO was an NGO. And then we moved from an NGO being a social enterprise, where an NGO is actually, you know, allowed to make money, but making a big social impact. And now moving to a place where corporates and the big corporates of the world must have an aspect of you know, social impact as well, and not just from a CSR perspective, but now, you know, what's, you know, commonly being referred to as shared value. And shared value is basically ensuring that even if we are a big corporate organization, that we're not only setting aside a small budget from our revenues for CSR, but creating space for shared value. Shared value meaning we can still give back, but also remarkable as we give back. So not just giving back, which has always been the case for the majority of corporates, where, and as I say this as a business journalist who has turned down hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of emails saying, could you cover us? We're giving blankets in whatever, or we're planting trees in whatever, or we're giving food. And I always say it's such a segment of the budget, but as organizations begin to embrace sharing that value in the communities that they operate in, then even we as journalists will easily come onto that bandwagon, because then we're telling stories of impact. We're not telling stories about an organization that has set aside X $million for CSR because they want to look good at the end of the day. But we're asking, what are you actually doing within the spaces that you work in? And for us as journalists, a question that I'm beginning to constantly ask myself and ask the members of my team, especially around the social economy, is, are we asking the right questions? Are we meeting the right people? Are we asking the big corporates the right questions in terms of social impact? Because we're no longer operating in voids where, you know, the big corporates are the big boys and they're the ones making the billions of the dollars, and then the rest of the economies that they operate in are neither here nor there. So organization I work for today, one of the questions that we constantly ask and constantly stick to is, are we making an impact in the space that we operate in? Not from a CSR perspective, but from a shared value perspective.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Jan, a good number of people are saying congratulations to CAS, and thank you so much for covering and unveiling for us Dr. Okoth in a different perspective. But they're also saying that CAS should endeavor to do more and more of such stories, because there are several of this kind of stories in the backyard. So we need to see if they can be talked about, or if they can be highlighted. And the parting shot, the Honorable Osozi, Honorable Geoffrey, what is your parting shot in perspective to this conversation?
Well, it has been a very wonderful discussion this evening, considering that all of us are at home or we are observing social distance. But what I would want to really emphasize is what Terry Ann had mentioned, that how do we reach to that low-level person, the Mama Mboga, and try to see how to empower that person. I think we need to put a lot more emphasis into the informal sector. How do we operate within the informal sector? And I think the growth of this country's economy will really be dependent on what actions do we do to empower the informal sector. We all see what is happening down in our villages. Ever since we got into devolution, you move around the markets and you see a lot of vibrancy. People doing businesses here and there because resources have trickled down to the ground. But there is a lot that needs to be done to empower those people to do a lot more. And I think all of us will benefit. The players in the informal sector will benefit. The government will benefit through more revenue, through taxation. So it is something that we really need to look at, and not just looking at the big players like Kenya Private Sector Alliance and others. We also need to look at these low-level entrepreneurs and business people.
Okay. From Zebi Nyakiangana, he says, quite an eye-opening conversation. Big thanks to Cass. He say, great lessons there, Dr. Okoth, on the need for business mentorship. He said, thank you so much for offering opportunities for mentorships as well. And then, Dr. Max, the government has done quite a bit to enable entrepreneurship. We do recognize it, among other conversations that people are having online. Dr. Maxwell, this has been an impeccable journey. What would be your parting shot for Kenyans, for the people who are tuned in, and even the people who would look at this, and people who have goals that have been hanging or they've been scared to venture into? What would be your advice to them as you raise your parting shot?
Thank you very much, Josiah. I think I sit in a very difficult position at this point to be called a business hero, when business are really struggling to survive and then holding on to a straw. But we can only keep praying and hope that God gets us through this pandemic. As business owners, we are in the middle of whether to lay off people or cut salaries as a measure of surviving. But I hope we get through this. As a parting shot to me, I would say, I always tell people, follow your passion, so that even when the business is not making any profit or is not even making sense, at least you're doing what you enjoy best. And for me, my passion has been serving lives and practicing the art that I went to school to learn. And so that will always be part of me. And that keeps pushing me. Whether things are hard or thick, you always have something to look up to. Number three is one thing I've always said, the businesses that are sustainable and the businesses that will survive are those that have an impact on humanity. And so that's where social market economy comes in. If you're not bringing value to people, then you can never be sustainable. If mine is to pick something at 10 shillings and sell at 30 shillings, I can only do that for a period. And I always tell people, money is not enough, no matter how much I give you. I can break down $1 trillion to you today, how it will end in 5 years. I can break down $1 million, how it will end in 3 months. It just depends on how you use it. And so you need to do something that will always transcend humanity, that people will always remember. As RFH, we pride ourselves that we have helped bring forth about 8,000 children in this country today. But if tomorrow I call them to Kasarani Stadium, I have a generation that I can look up to and say, these are people that this institution has brought forth. And for me, that is the best thing that you can ever have in life. It's more than any money you can ever have. The third thing I'd like to say is, in this era, and I think COVID is going to change a lot of things, how businesses are going to be run moving forward. And that said and done, I think it's an eye-opener to our government that more than ever, we need to protect our own local bred businesses. Because right now we're asking people had run this alone, we won't be asking people to produce, we'll be empowering them to produce more. In as much as we look forward to private equity investment from foreign firms, which is a good thing because you need direct foreign investment for any economy to grow, we need to empower our own industries. And that is one thing that I think we have not done very well as a those that empowers. For example, in the movie you saw, I have a very short stretch of a road that I don't think I should struggle. The government would have just done it without even a thought. The local administration would have done it without a thought, looking at the investment that lies behind that, because we have changed the dynamics of that area. So this is one thing we really need to work on as a nation. Build our own local enterprises, because that is the only thing we can depend on. Right now, we cannot go anywhere. We are stuck here. So we need to empower our own so that it grows and becomes stronger and becomes better, because that's the only thing we own. And I think CAS has done very well to come up with this, so that we have businesses that think of the environment and think of the people and think of the society, and not just the profit part of it. And it's the same thing, social value and social entrepreneurship. To the youth out there, I'm glad I've seen a lot of positive comments. It feels good when somebody somewhere appreciates what you do. Sometimes you just need that positive comment to keep you going. And thank you very much. And thank you, Jan. I think you've done well for yourself. And for CAS, you deserve a clap. I think this is very good. Looking at the comments, when I was approached by Ravi, I asked myself, okay, should I not? But I said, if it's going to touch and influence a life, more often than not, it's what we leave behind, that somebody will one day say that because of this gentleman, I did this. Thank you very much. And I wish you all guys all the best. Good evening.
Okay. Thank you so much. I also take this opportunity to thank you so much. And it's quite a wonderful story you have there. And thank you for your resilience and even impacting the people. So one of the things, and one of the famous sayings by Indira Gandhi is that if you want the change, then you be the change. And you're leading from the front because you really are the change. You're not sitting back to complain about anything. You're doing it, and along the way, you're learning the ropes. I want to also say thank you to my co-host, Christoph, who is on the other side of the technical work, and we've been communicating here back and forth. But as we wind up, then Dr. Jan, I give you this opportunity to do your parting shot, but also then close and wrap up this conversation altogether. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Josiah. And before I would close this discussion, I would just answer 2 questions we had in the chat. And the question was, it's Keshia, please do more stories of business heroes in Kenya. Others also asked that. And the good response to that I'm having is we are doing that. So we are already about to shoot the second film about business heroes. And I would ask Ravi to give us maybe a 2-minute updates about what's happening, because he was actually over the weekend working on the second part of this. So I think some advertisement may be good. And after that, I would go for my closing remarks. So I would hand over to Ravi to do some advertisement for our next film.
Yes, thank you, Jan, for pointing out that there will be a second season, so to say, coming up. And yes, we are just shooting and working together with a young entrepreneur. She's called Ruth Abadi, and she set up a fashion industry which is very successful, not only in Kenya but also in Europe and the US. And she also set up something like a social market economy in small. But we will, please give us some time to finish this film, and then we will show you. Thank you, Jan.
Yeah, thanks, Ravi. So we already promised once the film is out, we will do a similar session than today's to show the film. Second question was, can we send this film to a wider audience? And today we had about, I think, 150 people in total watching it. That is good, but that can of course be much more. And we still have the film on YouTube for quite some time. And even I think with in HD quality, which we could not send completely through Zoom today. We will still invite people to look at that. And I still hope that after the lockdown is over, we can still rent a cinema and show the film. Maybe then we can also show the second one afterwards. So we try to carry on showing this film because it's too good to just show it for one evening and bring it to the archives. And a special thanks to Ravi and to Dr. Maxwell that you worked on that for quite some time. And I really appreciate the professional work you did on that to come back to this really good result. Thanks to you. And also special thanks to Honorable Sotsi and to Terry Ann to stay with us all afternoon. And I would really hope that this is just the beginning of the road, that we would meet again. Of course, we have to find out in which way, because we still have the lockdown that is not allowing us to meet in person. But I think we could, just from tomorrow on, I would contact you and we would just propose a way forward that we would make sure we meet and discuss about what can be done. We'd include Dr. Maxwell and see if we can start a certain journey to see what can be done for SMEs and how this could be done in this framework. That's mainly what I need to say. So I would like to thank all of the participants that made this, I think, a really interesting and fruitful discussion. I followed this on Zoom. All the questions and comments that came in was really a lot, more than we could ever respond to in this 2 hours. So we will still look through these questions and comments, also on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube, which I didn't look at myself, but somebody else did, and make sure that we can still respond to these on Twitter and Facebook so that all the comments can be factored in. Now, if we would be in the cinema, I would invite all of you to come with us to the bar of the cinema and have a cold drink. We cannot do this now, so I would just ask all of you to just go to your fridge, get yourself a cold drink, and drink on this good video. So cheers, and have a good afternoon, and see you all in the next time. Hopefully in the cinema. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Ravi, it's a verdict that the season 1 is a success.
Yeah, I know. It was very hard. It was very hard, I can tell you, in the research to find another story which has a similar quality than yours. They are not. It's quite a challenge, but I think this will cope very well together. You will see. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Afternoon.
Yeah, guys.